It's Monday. It's February 5th, 2024. For some reason today, with whatever's going on, there's this memory that I have of I went out of bounds. Like, if the United States of America does have bounds with the Federal Reserve note and so on and so forth. And so there's interior territory, and then when you exit the interior, I don't know what to call that spatial anomaly. um, but at the time when I was in Long Island University, before I went to Hofstra, there was an advertising on campus, in the gym. It wasn't the gymnasium. It was like this small workout room with like a treadmill, whatever, that I used to, right off of the. I would pass it on my way back and forth from like where the, um, I guess the cafeteria was, whatever, and so in there it advertised for two locations, for one of the breaks, and it was extremely cheap. So, um, one, the only person that I knew, I invited, and we went 2 years in a row. We went once when I was in LIU and once when I was in Hofstra. The first year that I went outbound, um, there was something that happened. We were alone. We checked in, and then we went out for some social gathering that they were having, or so they announced. um and we met some other college persons, and then I blacked out. I know Marie, the person I was with, blacked out as well, and then we never spoke of it. I have no memory of what happened when we blacked out. I remember being taken, like, we went into the water, and I was following this person that I wanted to follow. And then all of a sudden, I blacked out once we were in the water. I don't know what that was about. And I don't know what happened to after that. And again, it was in a foreign territory. So I don't, um, but, and then we didn't see these persons for the rest of the trip. It was like, it was just a quiet whatever. And then the second year that we went out, outbound, only two times I've ever traveled with this person alone, except in my youth. Linda and Lou allowed me to go with her to Maine. So I went into Walker territory. Um, they took me there in a Crown Victoria, no less, um, and drove me up there. Um, and so the second year, uh, is where I believe that's where I met Roost, this person who referred to himself as Rooster, and I was Chicken. Never talked about it. She doesn't even know about it. But it was whatever it was. And those are the only two outbound um, times. And now I'm in the interior. I mean, later on, while I was here, obviously, Nicklaus at Hofstra. And then something happened with Crazy Donkey meeting. And like life just went downhill after that. Um, and then, and the person that I met outbound, or out of bounds, um, on the second trip, he was not wearing gray trousers. But later on, after my first son was born in Smithtown, believe it or not, before I blacked out and went to someone's house. I woke up. I was in somebody's house in Comac, um, who was a client of somebody I was working for, and then I wound up waking up in a taxi cab and then being dropped off at my house in Lake Grove at that point. Um, and that was at Miller Drive in Lake Grove. But that night, before I blacked out, and while I was in Smithtown, there was someone there. And he's the man, I call him the man with gray trousers. Not that anybody's ever asked, but if I'm retelling the story correctly, I call him the man with the gray trousers because he is the only man in the gray trousers that I will ever refer to. Um, and he knows who he is at EO. Um, for whatever reason, he showed up that night. Um, and then I'm trying to think. Now I have this, I just found this piece because I've done some documentation while I'm here, and going through whatever's going on. And now it's nighttime, but the sunlight that comes through. I found an episode of Star Trek, which is something I've never watched before. This is from the year 1999, um, and it's called USS Equinox. And it speaks of like it's an artwork piece, I suppose, in an abstract way, but if telecom, and there's supposed to be a science bridge between some telecom project that's going on. They have like a theoretical or a hypothetical of the way that their story uses vocabulary, for which I'm just piggybacking at this point, or I'm incorporating it in order to explain phenomenon that I have going on here in the local area. Not sure what's going on with that. So I'm just going to make reference of it real quick because they have on there um, someone, and he's at, and they hear this really weird noise, which sometimes I say, and I've made this note before, it's like the particles inside of the residence. It's almost like if your body could pick up on particles in some form of friction, but in a frequency that's not natural, but coming from one of the like Bluetooth devices, almost, because again I don't know the technical words on it, but it's the closest I could come up with. So this artwork rendering that they have at Star Trek, it says, this particular piece says, Janeway finds a kindred spirit in the captain of the USS Equinox. So I'm going to reference this because what happens is there's something that they're referring to as a fissure that opens up. Like you have the shield and then the fissure, and then it expands. And it almost, when they go to this phone call or distress signals, they call it Mayday. And I've seen that referenced in Thunderbirds in the IRS, International Rescue, on the Thunderbirds like puppet theater that they used to put on in the 60s. Again, I've been sampling a lot of their televised stuff throughout the years to try to come up with some kind of congruent, like evidence based sequence so I don't sound completely off base or completely like bonkers. Can you get a visual?
They are heavily damaged, multiple hull breaches. Warp drive is offline.
What's happening to their shields?
They're being disrupted by some kind of energy surges.
Weapons fire?
There are no other ships in the vicinity. We're in.
Okay, and I'm gonna just pause that for a second. I've already made and put on notice, and then I put the "In God We Trust" for the one, the ONE. And to address ONE, I would be like two, TWO on that, only for the simple fact of, like, I don't know how else to make a distress call. But if, like, being that General George Washington's the only general I've ever heard of, and that's widely agreed upon. And then there's the first President George Washington, also widely agreed upon within the monetary system, with the ONE on the back of that bill. I'm concerned in the local area. This changeover that didn't really bother me until I started having problems with the cell phone and some of the other things in the area. Like right now, it almost feels like a cataracts over the eye, weird taste in the mouth. I have no idea where this is coming from. I don't know if it's something in the breathable air. I don't know if it's something coming through water or food. I don't know. Um, but it's very concerning. And so, anyhow, the power grid changing from Long Island Power Authority, which was localized, local unions, and then all of a sudden this transfer to national grid power, and then all of a sudden this PSE&G. I don't know what that was all about, but it's concerning when you think of things like shields, and you think of magnetic fields, and so on and so forth, for communications and for just like the household power grid. Um, Things I've never had to think about before until all of a sudden the changes were so drastic. So I'm watching this with that in mind as well.
We're in hailing range.
Open a channel. This is Captain Catherine Janeway of the Federation Starship Voyager. We're responding to your...
You've got to expand your shields around that ship. Match the emitting frequency.
Are you under attack?
Shields, quickly!
Do it.
We're in position.
I'm attempting to match their shield frequency.
You hear something?
Interspatial fissures are opening on decks 10, 6, and 1.
Tuvok.
Stand by. Shields are holding.
The fissures?
No sign of them.
Voyager to ransom, Captain. Assemble rescue teams. Secure the Equinox. Tuvok, you're with me.
So, personal story, real people, don't know what happened. I also wrote today, I was listening to a music artist, and when you don't really know the person's, like, there's just this look that this one football player has, Kelsey, who's with Taylor Swift now, big trend right now. Not that I follow, but I hear it in the back noise of whatever's going on the television. And then of course there's Luke Combs, who's kind of got that look about him. And whatever I had going on pre-pandemic in the local area, random person runs into me, random strangers runs into me at Starbucks, asks if I want to go out one night. I said sure. Just took a couple of train rides to nowhere in particular. At least I didn't have the city mapped out. I don't know the city. Train ride on the MTA, went on subway, and then back home. Just whatever. A couple of days later, shows back up at Starbucks. Um, Says hello. I think we already had exchanged numbers. Um, and that was it. As far as, like, that's how quick and random events are in this field. For me, quantitatively, it's hard, like facial visualization, like, so, especially not having like these deep, meaningful relationships, just kind of, I don't know, whatever they are. Um, it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. I'll tell you, it's lonely. It is extremely lonely to just, and I also wrote, back in my youth, I remember we took a train from, I flew to Florida, and then we took a train from Florida to Colonial Williamsburg, Virginia, and we were meeting our relatives from West Virginia and Texas. They were meeting us at Colonial Williamsburg, and we were going to have a family get together. And that was really nice. I got to meet some people that, again, it's these meetings, but um, I was a child and I was away from Linda and Lou. I was with my two aunts, some of my cousins, and it's just been a lot of that. Just walking into rooms, knowing who's going to be there, and not a lot of camaraderie or like long-lasting relationships. Never really happened here. I don't know if that's what's going on because of bigger things, but um, and again, like, if you talk of like in the universe, is it by intelligent design? I don't know. Like, who would want to sabotage my entire life? I don't know. Especially knowing that I was flower with special clock feature. I don't know. I don't know that level of engineering or mechanics. I just know the facts and how they astrologically line up in the synchronization of timing and Calcaneus calculus, and what the major spacecraft points are of what meeting did I walk into, and then like how did it are they just disorienting, or are they like whatever it is? But it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. So I put up a piece, I put up whatever with Seneca today, just to like offset the Dolomite, because my grandfather left the Dolomites to come this way and then have with my father, and then I was born here. Um, and I met people from the Seneca region. I mean, they knew that I was born here when I was young. Um, and then they also took me to Pennsylvania for another time. So we've been interior. I mean, I've been interior the majority of my stay. Um, it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And why was the one, really the one and only friend that I arrived to, why was she allowed, like, and geared towards education and college and master's degree and all of that stuff? And it was like almost, I don't know, it just feels like it was purposely like withheld, or I was moved in some other direction, like not even like to try to reach for it. And I don't know what that was about either.